All right, Johnny, how are you today?
Yeah, good, Stu. Been a busy week, but feeling good. How are you?
Yeah, getting busy. That's right. That's right. I think
Yeah,
things are starting to pick up after the Christmas break, right? February,
yeah.
March, April. People
Seems
start
to
to
be
get
that
into
way.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's it. Busy at work and busy in life. Great.
Indeed, indeed.
And the weather's been fantastic.
It has stepped out for a quick walk this afternoon and took my coat off actually because it was
Oh,
yeah,
very daring. Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
All right, what's on the agenda today?
All right. Well, let's start with some good news that a lot of people probably consider good news. So we discussed briefly last week the 720 model
Yeah,
that Hacienda, the tax agency, often has been asking people to fill out
yeah,
for several years if they have property or assets or cash that's held outside of
yeah,
Spain that is 50,000 euros or more in value.
yeah.
So the European Court of Justice, so two Spanish lawyers took this to the European Court of Justice that opened a procedure against Spain several years ago. And the verdict in this week is that it has been ruled unconstitutional
Hmm.
and that the model effectively has to be scrapped.
Yeah, okay, great, great. Yeah, because it went against the movement of capital in the European Union or something like that, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it was to do with common regulation on this matter within the EU. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's always been, and I mean, I've never understood the 720, to be honest. I mean, it's something that you have to do if you have property, or I think we spoke about it last week because of Bitcoin investments or something. So if you had a,
Yeah.
if you struck it rich with Bitcoin, you had to fill in one of these forms, and it's sort of like a form that you do on top of your normal tax declaration. So it was, something that a lot of people didn't really understand, and a few people have been caught out. I saw the Spanish government justifying it, saying that, oh no, this model brought down some of the big, corruption cases in Spain. I think the former Catalan leader Jordi Pujol he had to declare all of his foreign assets, which were, in the millions, and Hacienda managed to get a fair bit of cash out of that. But for the average uh, person, or the average punter, as they say in the UK, the it was a bit of an inconvenience to do, right? So and it was difficult to understand, because what's the idea of the European Union, Johnny? Is it going to be, because if you're in the States, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you live in California and you buy a house in, uh, I don't know, New Mexico, um, is there, a special tax declaration that you have to, or are you allowed to do whatever you want in the United States? I mean, that's what I understand the European Union to be, right? That you can cross the border, no one's going to ask you anything. So why not be able to buy a property if you live in the País Basco, if you live in the Basque Country in France, or if you live in Galicia in Portugal? Why not?
Yeah. I mean, the whole declaring assets thing, like for me, it's extra work. But probably what made it worse was the threat of the hefty fines that came with it. So
Mm,
some of these fines for not declaring on time could have gone up to 150% of. I don't know if it was the value of the asset because that would be quite extreme. But I
yeah,
remember that they were quite significant
yeah,
fines that they
yeah.
were proposing with this model. Yeah,
Yeah, but again, you buy a house in Spain, you pay your taxes in Spain, right? You pay
yeah.
your property tax, you pay all of the, you pay your stamp duties, all of those things. If you buy a house in France, you pay the French government that. So why was the Spanish government wanting to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I couldn't understand it, Johnny, to be honest. And the irony here was that it was set up by a guy who was the Hacienda minister at the time, who, when he left politics, set up an agency in the center of Madrid in order to help people with foreign investments. And that was one of his specialties. So they prepare laws. I mean, I don't want to say anything too controversial here, but set up a law, leave politics, and then go into a private business dealing with that law. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, I'm happy that the European Union's stepped in and said that this was unconstitutional, as you said. So what's the Spanish government going to do? I saw the minister the other day saying that they're going to try to do something else.
Well, I shall wait and see. Yeah, we can only wait and see, I suppose. We mentioned last week that they're preparing something similar with regards to people who hold crypto assets.
Yeah.
Whether that comes to fruition, we'll see, I guess.
I don't know. But the last thing you want is the Spanish government's hand in your pocket asking you for more tax, considering the tax increases that we've had over the last year or this year. They're going to come into effect this year with the new budgets, right? So, yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, what can we do? All right, anything else, Johnny, on that topic?
That was all on that topic. So let's move on
next?
to the property law, or the Ley Vivienda.
Yeah.
So the government, I believe they updated a draft earlier this week. And there's two key things in this new draft. One is the ability to limit rent prices, and the other is the extension on officially protected property from 15 to 30 years as to how long it holds that status. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's what that relates to.
Okay, so we'll just explain what that is. So do you know about these protected properties?
So it's kind of like a social housing or affordable housing concept that they have in Spain, and properties that are classed as that should be accessible, should have greater accessibility, essentially, for people to be able to rent it or buy it.
Yeah. Well, I think the way Spain works with this is that there's probably like a central government law, and then each autonomous community has its own rules and regulations with regard to this type of housing, and also councils as well. So the Madrid City Council has social housing. Where I live here, where you live, Johnny, your local council probably has some type of social housing as well. But it's not necessarily social housing like I would think in Australia what social housing is, or what probably your typical council flat in the UK, right? It's a little bit more sophisticated than that, I think. So, for example, I know people that have bought houses, like individual houses, that were socially protected, protección oficial, and the stipulations were that you had to be below 30 years of age, you had to have a salary of less than a certain amount and able to access it. And then the key rule was that you weren't allowed to sell it within a certain time frame.
Yeah, and that's what they've changed in this new law. So
they've extended it.
Yeah, so the original law was 15 years that you couldn't sell one of these properties, and it's been extended to 30 years now.
Which is actually laughable, because the person that I'm talking about who bought one of these houses sold it after 8 years. So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can sell it, but I think you need to have a well-documented, well-justified case to be able to do so. So perhaps it was the case for the person that you know.
Well, and the other funny thing about this block of houses was that one of the rules was that you had to be below 30 years of age, but his neighbour was retired. So again, there's a lot of dodgy business going on with these houses, I think, and so, I mean, I don't know, but what's the government's argument here, Johnny? They want to try to make rents more affordable, to control the market.
Essentially, the whole design of the property law is to make properties more accessible and affordable for young people, is what I understood from reading it. So whether it's extending the time limit on the vivienda de protección oficial, or whether it's implementing rent price limits, which a lot of other European cities already do, actually. Paris has rent limits. I believe Berlin might have them as well. But I think these rent limits have been left to the discretion of the autonomous communities. Some may and others may not implement them.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to this is a situation that's got out of control simply because when Spain went through that financial crisis, the only companies that were willing to invest in the country were those hedge funds that bought the bank properties, basically, right? And they did them up and got the squatters out and turned them into rental accommodations. And now they're the ones that are basically going to be hurt by this new rule, I suppose.
Yeah, penalised in a sense. Yeah,
that's right. Because one of the things was that they won't be able to put the rents at the price that they want, and maybe that will hurt the return on their investment. I don't know, but it is a problem not only here, but I was reading in Australia that I think in Perth rent prices have gone up I don't know what the percentage was, but a huge amount this year, and so it is something that probably needs to be controlled some way, especially if salaries are not going up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a difficult one always because there's a lot of it's striking the balance between free market and intervention. At what
Yeah.
point do you draw the line? So that's always the debate,
Yeah,
I suppose.
but I don't think anybody thinks that Spain has a free market economy, though, do they?
Well, I don't know. We'll leave it to the comments.
That's it. That's it. We'll see. We'll see. All right, good. What's next?
Yeah, and then the other topic we have, we can't let Rafael Nadal's win at the weekend go unmentioned. That was pretty impressive.
Well, what was he? 2 sets down.
I think so, yeah.
2 sets down, and I think he was even losing that third set as well, if from memory. I wasn't watching the game. I was just sort of checking the scores every now and again, but it was a magnificent comeback, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed. An algorithm had him down as a 4% or 6% chance to win and 94% his opponent.
Yeah.
And then he's come back, not only beat his opponent, but he's also beaten an algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those algorithms sometimes, I mean, I've seen them in the cricket when they have the same thing, the win loss or draw ratio in cricket. Sometimes they're not always accurate. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But yeah. Well, I suppose what would an algorithm put in there, Johnny? If you were behind that algorithm, you'd put in his age, right?
Probably take into account what the match was looking like at that point in time.
Yeah, but you wouldn't start off 50-50, I don't think, though, would you?
No,
Well, they do.
not. I mean, I'm not too sure, in all honesty, how they work, but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I don't know if the algorithm was set at the start of the match or if it was at kind of his lowest point in the match.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's when the
So
algorithm was.
probably when he was 2 sets down, it was at 95.
I think
that's it. That's it.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but he came back, and his opponent was 10 years younger, so that was something there as well. And I think it just goes to show that we're probably. I spoke about this with Ivan the other day, that he's probably the greatest Spanish sports person of all time. Definitely the greatest tennis player here in Spain of all time. Whether he's the greatest the world's ever seen, I don't know. But a physical beast.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about Pau Gasol's retirement, we said that Pau comes top 3, top 2, but Rafa has always come in first, and I think he's definitely justified why he's probably Spain's finest athlete.
Well, 21 Grand Slams.
Yeah.
Even though more than 50% of those were at the one tournament, which he's absolutely dominated over the years, but an amazing tennis player for the persistence and perseverance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a tennis fan, Johnny?
I can't say I'm a tennis fan. I tried it in the past, playing it, but I just don't have a good hand with the racket.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think when it comes to, I mean, we're probably fortunate, and as a sports fan, we've seen some of the greatest sports people of all time in the last decade or 15 years. We've seen, if you like, American football, Tom Brady, right, for example, just retired. LeBron James in the basketball.
Yeah.
Tennis, Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, Serena Williams. I mean, we've seen some amazing sports people.
Yeah, and then when you go to football, you got Cristiano Ronaldo,
Messi scoring goals that have never been scored, amounts of goals that have never been scored before. Formula One, Hamilton. Amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. What a time to be alive.
Exactly, from a sports point of view, that's right, exactly. Yeah. And the question is, will Spain ever have another tennis player as great as Rafa Nadal? That's the question. Or will Switzerland ever have another Federer? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question, yeah. But I mean, Rafael Nadal and Federer, they probably invest a lot into sports development centres. I don't know if they've got like their own tennis centres, but yeah. some of the good things that come with some of these world-class athletes is they invest a lot back into the sport,
Yeah.
and it gives younger players the opportunity to have the same development opportunities as them.
Yeah.
So whereas we maybe won't see them as sooner, the greats will just keep getting greater, is my opinion.
I don't know. It could be true because we waited a long time to see. I mean, these three tennis guys, and if we put Serena Williams into the mix, they've won more than 20 Grand Slams, or 20, 20, 21, and Serena's 23 or something like that. And but before that, nobody was able to win more than 12 or 13. So I don't think Sampras was able to get more than that. Rod Laver was around. He played back in the 60s or whenever it was. It was a different game back then. So I mean, we're seeing phenomenal tennis players, and to be able to win that many Grand Slams, it's we'll see.
Yeah.
That's right. But anyway, all right. Anything else, Johnny?
That was all for today.
All right, great. Good speaking to you. We'll talk next week.
Likewise. Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.